39 minutes long, 39 questions, 39 cheerleaders. It wasn't hard to find the extra 10. The hard part was winnowing it down, because we had so many applicants for the role of cheerleader. The ones that don't make it, we recommend go out. Those favorite cats are auditioning, and there are other places that they. Oh, hey, the show started again. We're talking about logistics again, because logistics is what we talk about before the show. Really, tonight we have a special cheerleading section behind you. You can't see it, of course. They're holding up the numbers and the questions that we're going to talk about, because that's what the topic of tonight is on the Keith Explains show. Specifically, I'm doing a little research back in November, looking around on the interweb thingy, just poking around. I discovered that Slate Magazine, it's something Bill Gates, someone started, I guess. He owns it. It's his little attempt to buy some good press, I think. So he's got this magazine, this electronic magazine. Like, you can't buy it on paper, so I don't think it's a real magazine to me. To me, it's just a website that, hires people and they put crap up, like most websites. Anyway, they have this particular little column called the Explainer. Now, my lawyers have already sent off letters because they're taking my shtick. Because I've been explaining longer than they've been explaining, I think. Because I've been explaining longer than Slate Magazine's been around, which I think gives me the right to be an explainer. And they're trying to steal my glory, because that's what everyone does. They're like, I want to be like Keith. Is what I hear constantly when I walk around among the little people. Anyway, they have this column called The Explainer, and you write in and ask questions, and then they answer them. It's like Ann Landers, but less stuff with bad families, I think, based on reading the questions. Now, at the end of the year, they put up this column that was like, hey, for this, we want to put up a whole list of questions we didn't have time to explain this year. And we're going to let you vote on which question you want us to explain. And then next year, we'll explain that one question. It's like audience participation, except through email. It's a way to get people interested in your site, the kind of thing. You want to make people feel like you actually care about them when you run a large website. So they put up this long list of questions. They're like, we'll explain one in 2007. And then voting closed. And we don't know which one they'll explain yet because they haven't done it. And it occurred to me, these people are pikers. Okay? They got 39 questions. They're going to explain one. They got all week to explain them, okay? They put up like 2 questions a week tops, and beyond that, it's not one guy. They got like a whole staff of explainers, because you read the little explanations that are all from different people. That is not what a real explainer does. Tonight on Keith Explains, we have all 39 questions. We're going to try and explain every last one of them. We're going to try and get through them. We might not, because normally I have like 6 topics and I get through 3. And tonight, technically, I have 39 topics. So it'll be a little adventure, everyone. Just stick with us. Here we go. Question 1. What comes after 999 trillion? 999 trillion and 1. Duh. You just add 1 to it. It's 999 trillion. You get 1 after it's 1. Now, what they probably meant to ask is what comes after 999 trillion, 999 billion, 999 million, 999,000, 999. And the answer, of course, is 1,000 trillion, or a really big number. It kind of depends on whether you're in the English system or the American system, because the English billion is 1,000 times bigger than the American billion, because I don't know why. We have this national debt, and it would be a lot smaller if we used English billions. I think our national debt would only be like $6 billion if we used English billions, whereas now it's like $6 trillion or something. But the English, different number systems, etc. Anyway, after 999 trillion and 1. Now, someone was telling me, hey, it's a Google. And no, a Google is way wicked larger than 999 trillion. 999 trillion really isn't that large. Our national debt's 1/200th of that, and probably by the end of the Bush administration, it'll be like 1/5 of that. Anyway, I got to move on, because not 39 questions. Question 2, why do train whistles at night always sound lonely and mournful? Not so in the daytime. A lot of people don't know this. The sun doesn't just provide light. The sun also provides warmth and happiness. At night, there is no sunlight, except for the sunlight reflected off the moon, and the moon is made of cheese, and happiness reflected off of cheese is not happiness, it's mournfulness. That's if you get a color wheel, if you go, left from green, you get to blue. If you get an emotional color wheel, when you reflect off cheese, happiness becomes mournful. So that's why train whistles sound lonely and mournful at night. They sound lonely because you're alone. Because if you're out at night listening to a train whistle without someone else there, and if there's someone else there, you're not thinking of the train whistle. You're talking to them, or you're running from them because you're being pursued because it's at night. Question 3, given the exchange and dispersion of matter, how likely is it, / how often do we inhale, / consume, and / or incorporate into our own protein structure molecules that were once part of some historical figure, say Abraham Lincoln? Now here's the first thing I thought of on reading this question is, why is it always Lincoln? No one's ever how often do we incorporate molecules that were part of Judas? Or how often do we incorporate molecules that were part of, let's say, Sirhan? Famous killers, no one cares what happens to their molecules. Famous people, they're like, hey, I want some of his molecules. And Abraham Lincoln apparently is very popular. I don't know what the heck happened to his molecules. I mean, for the most part, the way we deal with people in this country, which was we bury them in metal boxes, pretty much your chances are 0 because nothing gets out of those metal boxes. They're hermetically sealed, for God's sakes. Now, if we did something, smart, we burned people or we planted trees on top of them, maybe you'd have a chance. But I don't remember what happened to Lincoln's body. I'm assuming we buried it in Lincoln's tomb, just like Grant's buried in Grant's tomb. And I've got to say, I don't think there's a huge amount of recycling matter that was left in Lincoln's tomb that's yet, so probably not much chance yet. You have a better chance with Caesar. Now, that said, you got a huge number of atoms in your body, just ungodly large. Something times 10 to the 35th, I think. And that's probably wrong, but I'll put it up, corrected at the bottom or something. One of those, maybe from Lincoln. Who knows? Question. Lasers are now powerful and small, parentheses, at least I think they are, close parentheses. So why don't our troops carry laser guns? Now, it's a good question. It's that part in parentheses that gives it away. See, lasers are not powerful and small. They are either powerful or they are small. Powerful and small doesn't happen. Powerful lasers need really big power supplies, and you got to have huge capacitors, and you got to be sucking power out of the grid for a couple hours, to fire a burst of a laser beam that lasts a tenth of a second and heat some plasma up to 17 times the heat of the sun or something. But the little pen lasers that have the AA batteries, if you notice, when you point them at people, they don't die. You can amuse a cat with a laser with 2 alkaline batteries, but that's about it, which is why our troops don't carry them. There are very few cats our troops need to amuse most of the time. Why is smooth peanut butter cheaper than nutty? Again, people, just think about things for a moment. Imagine you're making peanut butter. You have to crush the peanut butter into, let's call it just an emulsion. Now you have creamy peanut butter. Now what if you want chunks in it? You have to put chunks back in. It's they don't make rollers that crush some of the things into peanut butter and leave other things chunky. So chunky peanut butter requires you to put stuff in. It's the second step. It's step 2 in the peanut butter process. And steps cost money. See? Probably in the old days, chunky peanut butter was cheaper than creamy peanut butter because they'd take a big barrel and they'd fill it with peanuts, and then they'd give some guy a mallet and he'd whack the peanut butter for a while, and if he whacked it a long time, it would end up creamy, and if he whacked it not quite as long a time, there'd still be chunks in it and it'd be cheaper. But today, what with the huge hydraulic presses and everything, I'm thinking creamy peanut butter is what they start with, and they add the nuts, and then you get the chunky, and that costs more. Plus, people will pay more for nutty peanut butter. Because, ew, why would you eat creamy peanut butter? It's like the kind of thing you give away to lure people in. They advertise a cheap washer, and then you get there and you're like, you don't want that cheap washer. Okay, if we taught animals to talk, how would that affect the world? Okay, first of all, I'm thinking there'd be more vegetarians. That's just a guess, though. I mean, I think there are people that would look forward to hearing what their food had said recently. So I can't say for sure one way or the other. One thing I'm pretty sure of is right now we romanticize animals. They're like, oh, they're all cute and happy and everything. And if animals can talk, we'd realize that they're just as petty and selfish and horrible as the rest of us. Like, for example, my cat. Right now, my cat is annoying, but we kind of like him. Whereas if my cat could talk, all I'd hear in my house is, I'm hungry, feed me, I'm hungry, feed me, leave me alone, pet me, I'm hungry, feed me. And I would come to hate my cat. More than I hate my cat now. Same would be true of like deer. Like right now everyone's like, deer, oh, such happy, gentle woodland creatures. And if they could talk, they'd be like, get out of my way, I'm looking for shoots and bark I can eat. I'm thinking, that's not Bambi's mother. That'd be like Bambi's father, maybe. What would happen to the stock market if a meteor impacted the Earth? What would happen to the global markets and the U.S. market? Say a meteor hits inside the U.S. borders and takes out 2 states. See, until that last part of the question, I'm like, well, you know meteors hit the Earth every day, don't you? I mean, they're tiny, but they're like, they estimate 7 or 8 of them land every frickin' day, and pretty much nothing happens to the stock market except it goes up if I've recently sold, and down if I've recently bought. That said, what would happen to the global market and the U.S. market if a meteor took out 2 states? I'm thinking it would be bad. Thinking it would be very bad. I mean, I could be wrong because we had this hurricane take out most of a city and like no one noticed. Okay, is it possible to collect all of the cookie dough in chocolate chip cookie dough ice cream and actually bake cookies from it? I read somewhere someone did this and they said the cookies were bad. So the answer is yes, and the cookies are bad. How clean is bar soap in a public restroom? Is it self-cleaning? Since it's soap, it seems like a health hazard to me. Now, here's where there's a point of confusion. People think of soap as clean. Soap isn't clean. Soap is just this crap that has a molecule that on one end will stick to fatty things and the other end will dissolve and stick to water. So like if your hands are covered with like, let's say molecules and cells and stuff that tend to have fat on the outside, well, when you put them in soap, part of the molecule will attach to the crap on your hand and then the water will attach to the other half and it'll take it away. There's nothing clean about this. This is just chemistry. If you want your hands to be clean, you need to dip them in chlorine. But people don't like that because it stings a lot. So yes, it's a health hazard. That's why you use the pump soap. Why did Zidane headbutt his opponent in the World Cup final? Do the French not fight with their fists? See? Now the let's mock the right-wing idiots in my brain wants to go, well, of course the correct answer is the French never fight at all. They always run away. Now, this isn't true because, you know, there was the French Resistance and the French Foreign Legion, and the French won quite a number of wars. Let's think of Napoleon. I mean, he did eventually lose, but he won along the way. Now, why did he headbutt his opponents? I'm assuming he was angry. And he had been running up and down a field in 100-degree weather for the previous 105 minutes, which is something I'm incapable of doing. I mean, I enjoy watching soccer. I don't enjoy watching most sports. I enjoy watching soccer because those people are actually out there exerting themselves. Because in soccer, the referee blows a whistle, and then everyone runs back and forth on the field continuously for the next 45 minutes. There are no breaks. Like, if they stop a soccer game, it's because someone has fractured a leg. And then they only stop it long enough to drag him off the field, and then they go back to running. So I suspect he was angry. When we are approaching another person, like in a hallway, why do we step to our left? That is, try to pass right shoulder to right shoulder. Well, if you think about it, we have to step one way or the other, otherwise we'd run into each other. By convention, we as a society have chosen one direction. In the southern hemisphere, they do it on the other side. Little known fact. I have been pondering this situation for as long as I can remember, maybe age 7 to 8, and it drives me nuts. It makes me feel like my head will implode if I think any harder. Is the universe infinite? It must end somewhere, but when it ends, there must be something on the other side, right? This is a toughie. Not because the answer's tough, but because if that's how you put the question, it's hard to think of the right words to explain it to you in. So I think the correct answer is, yes, the universe is infinite. Stop thinking about it. If a group of passengers on a hijacked plane wanted to, could they bring down the plane by all of them using their cell phones at the same time? Answer is yes, but they would all have to throw their cell phones at the hijackers very hard so that the hijackers were knocked unconscious. Because cell phones don't really screw up planes very much. The FAA doesn't let you use cell phones on planes because if people could use cell phones on planes, there'd be many more murders in the air. Because the last thing you want to hear for 3.5 hours is the guy in the seat next to you going, "Hey, Bob, you wouldn't believe where I am. Yeah, 37,000 feet. It's great up here. It's a little tight in the thing, but how's Sally?" See, that people don't talk on planes because they have no one to talk to. If you give them cell phones, they have someone to talk to loudly, and that would annoy the other passengers, and then there'd be murders. And since they're in the air, it's unclear what state they're over. The FBI would have to be involved, etc., so they don't allow it. Why do humans die so young? In biblical times, people lived for several hundred years. Now, living to 100 is considered a long life. What happened? Okay, rule number 1. Some of the stuff you read in the Bible isn't actually probably correct, especially the stuff in Exodus. People probably did not live 100 years. People just did not have good calendars. Think about it. The calendar wasn't invented really until like Julius Caesar, which is many thousands of years or hundreds of years, depending on how much of the Bible you believe, after the events depicted in Exodus. My guess is, they had 5 or 6 years to every year of ours, and they died at 35 like everyone else. Because you can count how many kids they had. Think about it. If you lived to 400, and if your wife lived to 400 and was, kind of frisky, you would run out of names for your children. You would not just have the 5 that they talk about in the Bible. How can I tell if I was the first person to use the term "fed up" in relation to Brittany's divorce? You were not. Why is the number 8 always the same combination, tamale, enchilada, rice, and beans, in any Mexican restaurant I visit? This includes primarily the Southeast United States, but not obvious franchises. I don't know. I didn't read through many of these questions before the show, but I did happen to see this one. And I took a quick check of the Mexican restaurant I go to, and the number 8 is not a tamale, enchilada, rice, and beans. It is, in fact, a taco with a soft shell. So your question, just not a useful question. It's not true. Hi, how does nature make water? How does nature combine one oxygen atom and 2 hydrogen atoms to make water? If we knew how nature makes water, then perhaps we can find an efficient way of separating hydrogen from oxygen, thus creating the ultimate source of energy. Okay, nature makes water by combining 2 hydrogen atoms and 1 oxygen atom, in a process we typically call fire. If you want to take the hydrogen atoms away from the oxygen atom, you have to put in roughly as much energy as you got out of the fire, which is typically why you burn something. It generates a lot of heat. You use the heat as energy to split split things apart. There is no such thing as a free energy source, or it ain't gonna happen. Terribly sorry. If you gave the guy money, you're not getting it back. Why is grilled chicken tasting increasingly rubbery and odd? Okay, 2 reasons. First of all, people that make chicken are injecting more crap into the chickens. And number 2, you're getting older, and as you get older, your taste buds die, and everything tastes crappier. I mentioned this as an aside. It is an amusing side thing I read many years ago, that when I was a baby food was seasoned so that the mothers thought it tasted good. Which meant if you could have asked babies what they thought about their food, they'd go, "It's much too sweet and much too salty." Because, of course, they didn't care what the babies thought about the food. What they cared was that the mothers, when they tasted the food while they were feeding it to the babies, thought that the food tasted good. If you came out with food that was properly seasoned for a baby, the mothers would taste it and go, this is too bland, I'm not going to feed it to my child. Then they had a big PR campaign to tell everyone this, so that all the mothers, when they tasted the baby food, would go, oh, it's supposed to taste really bland to me because it tastes right to my baby. So if you plot, like that's, 20, 30-year-old mothers, by the time you're 60, I think you have like 4 taste buds left. I mean, Lord knows my grandmother has none. It's amazing the crap that she thinks is good. Okay, here's a good one. The email is in all lowercase because the person didn't have time to use the shift key. I need more money. What business can I start that will not take a lot of time? I have internet access daily, and I have Saturday morning free before noon to run around. I work 7 a.m. to 9:30 p.m. I have no idea. I mean, really, there are no good business. I mean, apparently you have a job. What you need to do is make the money you have last longer. I would suggest learning to use the shift key, and then perhaps you could be a writer. Just suppose one day someone wants to sell you an old gold bar. You don't know if it belongs to any treasure, and you can't find out if there is any reward for it, if it was a lost treasure. How would you go about melting it and selling it? The same would go for a gemstone about the size of a dinner plate. How would you go about selling it? If you're living in a country that is corrupt and you cannot trust the government or anyone else, what can you do? Okay, so the first part, you found okay, first of all, if I'm answering this for you, I get 10%. My email's in the credits to send, you can PayPal it to me. That would work fine. Gold is not terribly hard to melt. Go to like Orchard, buy a little propane torch, take your gold bar, put it in a metal bowl of some kind or something. Put the propane torch on the metal bar. It'll probably melt in about 15 minutes. You can buy a little crucible. You can pour it into little ingots or something. It's not really that tricky. Gemstone the size of a dinner plate. I have no concept of how valuable a gemstone the size of a dinner plate would be, but I got to think it's way up there. Since when I saw the Hope Diamond, it was, maybe the size of a small softball, and it was worth millions and millions of dollars. The whole part of if you don't trust your government or anyone else, what do? If you don't trust your government or anyone else, you're kind of stuck. You have to trust someone because commerce involves other people. I got to speed up because I'm running out of time. Can you tell me how long it will take if you eat rat poison to see if it is going to affect you? Please email me back because my niece ate some. Okay? I don't know how long it's going to take, but if your niece is still around, I think it's safe to say she's not going to be killed by the rat poison by now. I'm thinking it'd kill you in a day or two. But that's just a guess. For God's sakes, don't do an experiment on your niece. Hi, I just wanted to know if our eyeballs roll back when we are sleeping, or do they shake? Or ... And then, for the most part, when you sleep, your eyes stay where they are, although during REM sleep, apparently they shake back and forth and they move around and stuff, kind of like they do when you're awake. I don't think they really roll back into your head unless you're having a seizure, but what do I know? Okay, this is a good one. Pygmies. How/when/where/still in existence/ do we mate with them? Okay? Up until the end, it was a normal factual question. Yes, there are pygmies. Not many of them. They're in Africa. The southern part, north of South Africa and stuff. They tend to live in the jungle. So you would need to have a hat and maybe some canvas clothing and a guide who would take you out there. Now that last part, I suspect we mate with them the same way you mate with everyone else. But I'm not going into that on the show because it's still kind of a family show. Do dolphins actually save people? If so, why do they do this? I suspect a dolphin has solved a person sometime, and they probably do it for kippers. Okay, that question is too long. I'm not going to get to it before the show ends. Here we go. Can someone be forced to masturbate? Yes, they can. Probably not terribly successfully, but who knows? Why do we make a lip-smacking sound when kissing closed mouth? We do make the sound. It doesn't happen on its own. We do it because it feels good. That's the whole kissing thing. What's likely to happen to people, or what might they feel when they're killed instantly? Okay? Here's the thing. If they are, in fact, killed instantly, they're not there to feel anything. So there's no perception of time, so there's nothing that happens. Now that said, I don't know what killed instantly means. I mean, alive or dead is kind of a binary state. You know, so you're alive, then you're dead. So there's some point in time when you move from one to the other, but you know exactly how closely that correlates to when we think you're killed. You know, maybe we think you're killed now, but you're not actually dead for a little while. So who the heck knows? I mean, the problem is we can't ask people. Can a state in the United States split into 2 or more states? If so, how? I think Texas has a special provision for being able to divide up into 5 states, but I'm wondering about the others. No, they can't. There was this whole war about it. I don't think that we don't have the seats in the Senate for it, for God's sakes. I got a minute left. Here we go. I've noticed that a lot of mainstream movies feature men peeing. Are the actors really peeing? The answer is no. See, that would be a documentary. Documentary, real peeing, movie, acting. I don't even know what this question is asking. I'm not going to read it. Boring, too long. Is chicken considered meat? Yes. Hello, can you tell me if there's been any kind of medical discovery in the last 30 years besides DNA? Yes, don't have time. Are UFOs confirmed to be from other alien planets? They're unidentified, no one knows. How do you get to write articles for Slate? Do you have to go through a process? Yes, I assume you do. That's all the time. I can't, see that last question? Really ungodly long. I'm not going to get to it. It's been a great show, everyone. We'll see you in February. Yay. That was half an hour, huh? It didn't seem like half an hour. I hope it was half an hour. Someone nod and tell me that I didn't just end the show like 15 minutes early.